Growing up in the 2000s and even the early 2010s, I spent countless hours watching YouTubers introduce me to games I've never heard of, often from generations that I missed. One such discovery was the 1997 3D platformer Croc: Legend of the Gobbos. At the time, when I was primarily focused on newer releases, I found myself increasingly drawn to older titles I'd only seen through these brief video clips. There's just something undeniably cool about this polygon era. Early 3D platformers had a certain weirdness to them that made them undeniably fun. Something about Croc that stood out to me over a decade, whether it was its simple presentation, the upbeat music, or the lovable green protagonist, I'm still not entirely sure. Maybe it was the sense of potential wonder in an era when every developer was experimenting with 3D worlds in different ways. Regardless, the tenuous yet strangely personal connection resurfaced from the developer Argonaut Games, who unexpectedly announced not just a remaster for Croc, but also a revival of this IP. This developer has been largely inactive for years, so to see them re-enter the scene with one of their most iconic proprietaries felt like a nostalgic homecoming. And not just for me, but for any fan of old-school platformers. Feeling years younger, I got pretty excited about Croc making its way to modern platforms. It's hard not to wonder if this charismatic crocodile can find a new audience beyond the dedicated few who grew up with him. After all, Croc was often overshadowed by bigger games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Super Mario 64, titles that more aggressively filled the 3D platformer spotlight. Still, Croc has always held a small but passionate fan base, so I found myself eager to see how well the remaster would hold up. Regardless if it gained mainstream traction, Croc: Legend of Gobbos was back, finally giving me a golden opportunity to experience it firsthand. To be honest, there isn't a ton to say about simply playing through Croc: Legend of the Gobbos. In terms of structure and goals, it's a fairly by-the-numbers platformer. Your main objective as the titular crocodile is fairly straightforward. Rescue the Gobbos, these little furry creatures who have been kidnapped by the nefarious Baron Dante. Croc's bond with the Gobbos goes deep, as they, along with their ruler King Rufus, raised Croc from infancy. This family-friendly premise, complete with a cartoonish villain and a heroic protagonist, captures the bright, whimsical spirit that defined many 90s platformers. Of course, one of the biggest draws here is the game's presentation. The character designs are simply adorable and instantly recognizable. The Gobbos themselves are small, wide-eyed fluff balls, and the environments are reminiscent of childhood storybooks, brimming with greenery and colorful backdrops. Beyond that, the remastered offers a neat feature, where you can switch between the original and revamped art styles anytime. Personally, I'm partial to the older aesthetic, jagged edges and all, since it carries a distinct nostalgia that feels quintessential to the 90s experience. The updated visuals are undeniably crisp, but they can come off a bit too clean or safe, lacking some of the quirky charm that often comes with blocky polygons. Still, the option to toggle these styles on the fly, even in the middle of a level, makes for a fascinating compare and contrast experience, letting both newcomers and veterans appreciate how 3D graphics here evolved. Still, despite its cheerful exterior, Croc can be deceptively challenging. Croc's moveset consists of a jump, a stomp, and a tail attack, which on paper seems kinda limited, but in practice, mastering the timing for each move is critical, especially if you aim to fully complete each stage. Getting used to Croc's physics takes a little bit of time. There's a slight slipperiness even on normal terrain that can throw you off if you're not precise. Sometimes the biggest challenge isn't a complex series of platforms, but merely figuring out when to stop moving so Croc doesn't slide off the edge. This characteristic can be a little frustrating at first, but it's also a unique quirk that sets the game apart from other platformers of its era, many of which had similarly floaty controls but their own distinct twists. Levels are divided into separate islands, each with a unique visual theme like grassy plains, icy realms, and desert landscapes. These biomes inject some variety into the game's progression, though the obstacles that you face remain somewhat consistent, like spaced out platforms that require you to jump carefully. Occasionally you'll see new mechanics such as climbable walls, swimmable sections, or pushable boxes, which help break up the monotony. That said, they aren't used as extensively as you might see in modern platformers, where each new mechanic might define an entire stage, but they do spice things up just enough to keep you on your toes. Each level houses two primary sets of collectibles, Gobbos and crystals. The Gobbos often aren't hidden too deeply, but you might need to perform extra platforming challenges or fetch a key from a different part of the stage to free them from cages. This approach fits in well with the genre of this era. Think of how Crash Bandicoot may hide gems, or Spyro requiring you to find dragons tucked into corners. It's a similar idea here, just with Gobbos. Crystals come in two forms, common ones and special colored crystals. The special colored crystals are harder to spot, as they might even be tucked away among clusters of the regular, more abundant crystals. Functionally, these crystals resemble Sonic's rings, doubling as your health. If Croc gets hit, you drop a chunk of them, so having a few on hand at all times is key for survival. What I enjoyed about the crystals in Croc is how vulnerable they make him feel. They're not so abundant that you can hoard hundreds without care, and they disappear quickly if you lose them. This game doesn't allow you to tank hits casually and get away with it. It demands a bit more caution, heightening the tension in tougher sections. As a result, Croc has moments where you can lose a life, or even a continue before you know it. However, there's still some comfort in the fact that losing a continue simply kicks you back to the level select screen, while losing a life places you at the start of the current screen. In practical terms, you don't lose a massive amount of progress, yet pitfalls like lava or water hazards can be brutally unforgiving, since the lack of invincibility frames means that once you tumble in, you might watch your crystals vanish within seconds, leaving you with no safety net. It's a jarring system by modern standards, but it also keeps you alert. The remaster itself largely preserves these old school elements, which some players may find refreshing. Many developers, when remastering a retro title, try to modernize mechanics or introduce quality of life updates. Here, Argonaut Games has chosen to preserve the game's original challenge, only smoothing out some edges in its performance. This design choice might alienate players who crave more modern comforts, but it's definitely appealing to purists who want the authentic 90s platformer experience, slippery controls and all. Level design on the whole is satisfying, but there's no denying that the majority of stages involve similar platforming obstacles with a rotating cast of hazards. That said, completionists can find extra fun in Croc's rewarding approach to collectibles. Gathering every colored crystal in the level opens a special door that often hides one final gobbo, essentially for those 100% runs. Rescue all the gobbos in a world, and you'll unlock secret stages that eventually lead to an extra world, which definitely puts your platforming skills to the test. It's a straightforward but effective hook, giving players real motivation to explore each nook and cranny. Now, while most aspects of Croc have aged decently, the boss battles haven't. They boil down to waiting for a boss to become vulnerable when then attacking. There's little variety or depth here, making them easily the weakest part of the game. Thankfully, these encounters are infrequent and short, so they never become overly frustrating or derail the overall experience. On the brighter note, the soundtrack remains an absolute highlight, arguably one of the best features of Legend of the Gobbos. Each island has memorable tunes, but the desert theme in particular is an earworm that I've replayed numerous times outside of the game. The remaster doesn't overhaul these tracks, and instead it faithfully preserves the original compositions. In a way, it's a testament to how strong the music was from the start, good enough that it didn't need a total rework to feel modern. One addition that really elevates this remastered is the Crocipedia, a thorough in-game archive of interviews, design documents, promotional materials, soundtrack selections, and even video footage of the old test levels. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes content I wish more remasters included, as it pays tribute to the creative process while giving fans a deeper look into the game's history. And further, considering how many studios of that era neglected game preservation, it's heartening to see Argonaut go above and beyond in this area. For the fans who hold strong nostalgia for Croc, these extras are a goldmine, providing context and charm that extend well past the main campaign. From a technical standpoint, I didn't actually encounter any glaring performance issues on Switch. The game ran smoothly, loaded quickly, and offers easy to pick up and play sessions, ideal for a quick burst of platforming or longer hunts for hidden collectibles. While it might not push modern hardware in any groundbreaking way, reliability and consistency are often more important for a retro title like this. Croc Legend of the Gobbos is a welcome return for fans of classic platformers, offering a lovingly updated trip down memory lane. Its charming presentation and fairly demanding gameplay combine to create an experience that feels both nostalgic and curiously fresh. Sure, the level designs can get a little repetitive and the boss encounters feel more like an afterthought, but for players willing to adapt to the older control schemes and put in some patience, Croc rewards you with whimsical visuals, catchy music, and an earnest sense of fun that is aged better than expected. It's an encouraging sign for further revivals, and I'm hoping the sequel will receive a similar treatment. If nothing else, this remaster confirms that Croc still has a place in the modern gaming world, waiting patiently for platforming fans, old and new, to hop aboard. Noisy Pixel is giving Croc Legend of the Gobbos Remaster an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixels run by group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.